like Darren, if you can't tell me that, Ben, I'm committed to the Brew and Shavers SEC Sports Podcast for the next 10 years. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we can sign a contract, but let's face it, if SEC Network comes calling, are you going to tell them no?
I've turned them down all 3 times. Oh, wait, no. No.
It is officially December, and Christmas has come early for a number of SEC teams. We have 5 openings that have been filled, a 6th one that is in the process of being filled, Darren. So, shall we jump right into it?
I'd say we just got to jump on the carousel and go. Come on, let carousel get it, horse. All right, anyway, go ahead.
I think for our listeners, they didn't quite get the visual, but you've got to go to YouTube and see the visual,
my,
and you'll completely understand why Darren said what he said.
my equestrian skills came through. That's what I'm saying. Go ahead.
Equestrian,
Yeah.
that was not, yeah, that was not on the bingo card for words said in this episode.
Everything should be on the bingo card for our episodes.
Looking at the new coaching hires, Auburn has brought in Alex Golesh from South Florida. Arkansas has brought in Ryan Silverfield from Memphis. Florida has gone with John Summerall from Tulane. Ole Miss has promoted defensive coordinator Pete Golding to the head coach position. LSU, of course, has hired Lane Kiffin, and Kentucky is in the process of working out contract details with Will Stein, the offensive coordinator at Oregon. Darren, when you look at all of these coaching hires, and there's a lot to talk about, so let's keep it simple. If you were going to give a grade to each school for their hire, how would you grade each one?
Well, I think honestly, if you look at what the schools have done, I think it's a pretty even playing field of or an even class of movements outside of a couple of moves. When you look at Arkansas with the move with the Memphis coach, give me a second, it'll come to me. Silverfield, there we go. I'm going to at some point call him Silverfish, not on purpose. It's just going to come out. There's nothing I can do about it. But I'll have time to get Silverfield stuck. But when you look at that hire, I think they made a hire that they feel is familiar with the region. He has had some success. Matter of fact, from a Memphis perspective, he is responsible for 2 of the 4 most successful seasons in the history of the football program. So he's done some decent things, but it is not an attention grabbing hire from either perspective. I know it's good for him. He ended up in the SEC, but I think honestly that's kind of a C hire at best. I'm going to say the same for the Golding hire at Ole Miss. I think they hired a head coach, and it just happened to be Golding. I don't know that they necessarily wanted Pete Golding to be their next coach. I think they said, well, we've got to do something quick. We've got to have a good recruiter. We've got to have somebody that the players are going to love. And they started hitting all these boxes, and somebody went, hey, wait a minute. And he kind of sat down in the form. I don't think they were looking for him. He just kind of checked the boxes to keep them moving forward, or at least in their own mind. That's what they're thinking. Who knows? It could be a great hire, but to go from don't have a coach to have a temporary coach to have a full-time coach that we're removing that tag off of him in a matter of 4 hours or whatever it was, that just feels like a C hire as well. So I'm just not going to jump up and down about that. And this probably won't be a popular opinion in the state of Louisiana, but I'm going to throw the same tag on the Summerall hire. He could end up being a magnificent hire. He, as a coach, might end up being an A+ hire, but the Florida athletic department was a C process and a C hire at best. They just followed the same path. I mean, literally just scooted a little, further east in the state and did the exact same thing. And I think the Florida fans are reflecting that. They're already calling John Summerall Billy 2.0. They
Hmm.
were never really happy with that hire. So I think not necessarily John Summerall's fault. I think he could be successful. Hope for all of these guys that they are successful. But I think from the Florida perspective, what they did is a C hire at best. Unfortunately, I think the Alex Golish hire is probably a B. He seems to be an offensive, a really, really great young offensive mind. Did incredible things at UCF. Uh, Obviously, somebody that can call offense has been a need in Auburn for quite a while. Take one more, just one more, one
Mm.
more shot on the way out. But I think that's been a need. It's been something they've really been looking for.
Well,
Uh,
he's a Heupel disciple, isn't he?
he, you did it. That's it. Show's over. See, that was not on my bingo card. Yes, he is a Heupel. I refuse to say it. He is from the Heupel coaching
Mm.
tree. But yes, so that tells you that there's a deep running offensive skill set there. So I think that's a good hire. The Kentucky hire, I mean, that makes sense to me. The Oregon OC, again, great young offensive mind, really becoming known as one of the great play callers in college football. And regardless of how things with Stoops ended, there when they were successful, it was because Stoops had a good O coordinator. So if that's part of the offensive, if that's part of the formula that finds success in Kentucky, a good offense, they can go get an offensive mind. I'm willing to give that a C plus, leaning on a B, because they, at least it seems they were willing to do what seemed to be needed to be done on the front end. So that leaves one more grade to give. This might not be popular in the state of Mississippi, but
Hmm.
I think LSU made an A plus hire um, with Lane Kiffin. Um, they went and got who they wanted. And the thing I like about it is it wasn't in a and I'm a big game hunter kind of way that the Brian Kelly thing seemed to kind of go about. It was, we went and got the guy we want. That's the best. That's proven what he can do here. In this region, in this conference. I think it's an A plus hire. That being said, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on not only this hire but the last couple of days.
Yeah, today appears to be for some folks around the country Bash Lane
Yeah.
Kiffin Day. They're throwing all kinds of mud at him from guys that normally would not expect to hear that kind
Mm-hmm.
of vitriol from. Uh, but here's the deal. I'm going to take a different perspective on this because I've listened to a lot of different people today, from NFL commentators that I hear, and I'm like, man, y'all need to stay in your lane. I
Yeah.
mean, Bill Cowher is one of my favorite coaches of all time, but I think he's way off base in what he was talking about with Kiffin.
Mm-hmm.
We know that coaches are looking for other opportunities, and throwing the loyalty card out there and saying he should be loyal. How many coaches really stay at one place their entire career? There are
Absolutely.
some, but there's not many. So I can't fault in any job, coaching or whatever, when someone gets an opportunity that they think is better for them in their best interest. They're gonna pursue that opportunity. So I don't begrudge Kiffin for that at all. Uh, I've heard that people are going to get tired of his personality in Louisiana, and I like something that LSU athletic director Verge Osbury said. Louisiana is a state of personalities.
That's a
So
great point.
Kiffin's going to fit right in. I don't think there's going to be any problem in a state where you got strong personalities like Governor Landry, Kim Mulkey. You've got some big personalities in this state. Kiffin's going to be fine. Coach O is
Mm-hmm.
still a big personality, and Kiffin mentioned Coach O calling him in his press conference today, officially introducing him as the LSU coach. I've heard people criticize this and say, well, he's going to do the same thing to LSU that he does to everybody else. Well, you're dealing with hypotheticals there. You know, maybe he does. Maybe
Exactly.
he stays for 5 years and Alabama comes calling or Texas comes calling, but you don't not hire someone because you're like, well, what if they leave? I mean, we know that
Yeah.
that's a likelihood that that could very well happen. It can happen with any coach. Uh, Come on, we see it all the time. Coaches leave or they get fired.
Hmm.
The timing of this has been tough for everyone involved. I think Kirby Smart hit that on the head. I listened to an interview with him today. It's a difficult situation to be in.
Yep.
Could it have been handled better? Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure there's things that Lane Kiffin could have done differently, and there are probably things that the Ole Miss administration could have done differently. So yeah, it's emotional because Ole Miss is in the playoffs and he's leaving them, but he's looking at the long game here down the road. Ole Miss is where it is because Lane Kiffin came in there, built a staff together, created a culture, and got them to where they were. Yeah, I mean, if you look at Ole Miss's history, 1960 is their one national championship. I think
Hmm.
in the whole time of the SEC, they've won maybe 6 SEC championships. LSU has 4 national titles, 12 SEC championships, I believe, if I did the math right. And it's just it's two different programs.
Hmm.
It's different, I think, is the operative word here to emphasize. So, when Nick Saban left LSU, he had resurrected that program, and they were at its pinnacle, and he left to go to the NFL. Well, why because he thought it was an opportunity.
Right.
He wanted that challenge. Most coaches are competitors at heart.
Mhm.
They want the bigger challenge. They want to, can I compete at an elite program? And LSU is one of those programs. When they come calling, you don't say no because they're not going to
Exactly.
come calling again. They're just not. So, you know, everyone's got an opinion on this. I know Feinbaum hit him pretty hard today, bringing up his past, and I really don't like to do that, Darren. I mean, we can look at the past and maybe get some indications, but holding what people have done against them
Yeah.
for decades. I mean, Tennessee was brought up 2009 after he was fired from
Yeah.
the Raiders, youngest NFL head coach. It was a train wreck. So he goes to Tennessee. First year, 7-5 record. Everyone is excited in Knoxville, and he leaves for USC, which was his dream school. If you think about it, Pete Carroll, he mentioned 3 coaches today that are the biggest influences on his life: his dad, Monty Kiffin, Pete Carroll, and Nick Saban. So the USC experiment didn't work out. He was there from 2010 to 2013, got fired on the tarmac.
Yeah.
Young coach, made a lot of mistakes. So from there, he went to Alabama, where offensive analyst, then became offensive coach, worked with the coordinator, worked with the quarterbacks. He was there from 2014 to 2016. And you remember he was fired before the national championship game
Hmm.
because Saban didn't feel like he was focused. He was talking to people about other jobs instead of focusing on the national championship game. Well, here's the deal. I heard someone bring that up today. Uh, if Saban is truly one of the ones advising him to go to LSU, and if Louisiana Athletic Director Verge Osbury talks to Saban on a regular basis, we could
Right.
reasonably connect the dots that Saban was a big part of the decision to go after Kiffin and
Absolutely.
and to convince Kiffin to go to LSU. This was the guy that fired him. So going back to Alabama and holding that against him all
Hmm.
these years later, what are we talking, 9 years later?
Right.
When the coach that fired him is now advocating for him, that's
Exactly.
disingenuous at best. That's you're letting your emotions get the
Yep.
best of you, and you're not really taking the whole picture in.
Yep.
He went to Florida Atlantic after that. No one knew everyone knew he wasn't going to stay at Florida Atlantic for a long time. Ole Miss came calling, 6 years.
Yep.
He spent at Ole Miss, 6 years in Oxford. Today, he said those were the best 6 years of his life. A lot of good happened.
Hmm.
So we're back to that whole thing, Darren, where two things can be true at once. Can he love his time in Oxford? Can he love Ole Miss? Yes. Can he want another opportunity, one that is different in LSU? Yes. You don't have to have this scenario that he's trying to blow up Ole Miss. Yeah, his a lot of his staff is coming with him, but I think what the deal there is, the reason Kiffin took the job when he did is because you got to hit the ground running. We got some major important dates in the college football calendar coming
Mhm.
up. Your staff is a big part of your recruiting. You got to know who your staff is going to be. So Kiffin needed to know, hey, which of you guys are coming with me? Which of you aren't? I just need to know what your decision is.
Mhm.
I think they would have been fine if they stayed at Ole Miss. They would have been taken care of. But maybe they like coaching with Kiffin. Maybe they enjoy that relationship. Pete Golding, good hire from Ole Miss. I know he's a defensive guy, but he's a Louisiana boy.
Yeah.
The big challenge is you've got to find that offensive mind to come in there. That's always been a challenge for DCs
Yep.
that are elevated to that to that position. But overall, I'm very pleased with the Lane Kiffin hire. I think it should have happened 4 years ago when they hired Brian Kelly.
Agree.
But everything happens in a time and in a season. And LSU may have Kiffin for 5 years. They may have him for 10 years.
Mhm.
You don't know. I don't expect him to end his career at LSU. It'd be great if he did. But if he comes in there, leads this program to some SEC championships, if he wins 2 national titles, he has won more than any other LSU coach.
Absolutely.
That's a pretty immense challenge there. So I think it's a great hire for LSU for Lane Kiffin. I think everyone's going to be fine. Even, you know, I understand people in Oxford are upset. Ole Miss is upset. I get that. But I was really surprised by some of the national personalities,
Agree.
even SEC shorts. They just went after Kiffin
Yeah,
on
they
that.
really did, didn't they?
I thought that was really petty on
Yeah.
their part. The guy chose to pursue an opportunity. And the
Yep.
fact is, most of us would choose to pursue opportunities when we have something like that handed to us. Like Darren, if you can't tell me that, Ben, I'm committed to the Brew and Shavers SEC Sports Podcast for the next 10 years. Yeah,
Mhm.
we can sign a contract, but let's face it, if SEC Network comes calling, are you going to tell them no?
I've turned them down all 3 times. Oh, wait, no. No, absolutely not. To your point, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And let me say this to that point, talking about loyalty, and you talking about things that weren't on the bingo card for this episode. I'm going to say something favorable about James Franklin in the process of talking about Lane Kiffin. People that want to scream and cry and say you should be loyal, you should be loyal, you should be loyal. There's something very much to that, and I am all about that. But coaching, especially on the level that we're talking about, is a very challenging endeavor that has a very unique set of difficulties. One of which being you can be as loyal as you want to be. I guarantee you, right now today, if given the opportunity, James Franklin would still be the coach at Penn State. They would not be looking for, could be Josh Heupel, just hearing that name, but anyway, they would not be looking for a coach right now if it were up to James Franklin. He loved being at Penn State, and last year he was let's see, what was it? The final record was 12-4 and 3 points away from the college national championship final, a field goal away from the college national championship final, and didn't even survive this season. So people that want to scream at a coach about being loyal, 2 sides to the story there. I think you
Yeah.
cannot, even if you don't want to say it in defense of Kiffin, you cannot be realistic and in any form of genuine and say that about college football today.
Yeah. Darren, I have been at the same job for 26 years. So there's and over time is something that I thought this is best for my family. So, but I've worked with people throughout those years, Darren, that have left for other jobs because they thought these were better opportunities. It's sad when someone leaves.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't begrudge them for it. I'm not angry with them for it. That happens. That's part of life. And so, um, it is what it is. You wish that maybe the college football calendar was set up differently,
And it should be.
to, and that's the larger issue. And I
Yep.
think Coach Saban brought that out on College Game Day last week, and
Mhm.
there's a lot of wisdom to what he's saying. I hope we look at that because I really don't believe that Lane Kiffin's the villain here. Look, we were mad as heck when Nick Saban left the Miami Dolphins to go to Alabama,
Absolutely.
but over time you get over it and you realize, this is life. This is life. We move on. We roll with the punches.
I can't remember. I would love to give credit, but I'm genuinely, there's been so much out there. I can't remember who it was. So shout out to whoever said it, not claiming it as original, but someone was making a point how you're getting mad at Lane Kiffin in this process. And it was I think it was like a YouTube national, like YouTube. It wasn't like an ESPN or anything, but you're getting mad at Lane Kiffin in this process, saying, "How could you? Why are you leaving? You're going to the playoffs. How could you do this?" The way the NCAA schedule or calendar is set up right now is the equivalent of NFL free agency starting during wild card week of the playoffs. How much
Mm-hmm.
sense would that make? And it's the current NCAA calendar. It makes absolutely no sense at all, and it creates these kind of scenarios.
Yeah, yeah. It has to be addressed.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, let's move on to our updated college football rankings, not our
No.
rankings. We didn't get a vote because if we did, they might look a little differently than they came out.
Yeah.
And one glaring ranking has to do with Vanderbilt and Miami. I think Miami jumped over Vanderbilt in
That's
this week's
correct.
rankings, coming off of a victory against Pitt, which is not exactly a football powerhouse this
Right.
year. While Vanderbilt went into Knoxville, their rivals' home stadium,
Hmm.
and won by, was it 21 points, 19 points?
Correct. 21.
45,
Yeah.
24.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
21 points. They also have one of the most recognizable personalities in college football, Diego Pavia,
Hmm.
who should be invited to New York. And I'm thinking it'd be hard to argue against him not being the front runner for the Heisman
Absolutely.
Trophy. It'd be hard to argue
Absolutely.
against that. So, Darren, you're a Vanderbilt fan. I don't want to take up your steal your thunder here, but I can see your face. You don't get upset often. This is something
But
that's really, really bothering you. So, my friend, if the floor is yours.
okay, let's just start with simple basics. Take names and labels off of it and do a blind side by side. Team A is 10-1 and won on the road against the 22nd ranked team. Team B is, or I'm sorry, is 9-2. Team B is 9-2 and won on the road against the number 18 ranked team. Regardless of names and all of that kind of stuff, which one of these two teams should move up a spot? Pretty simple. Regardless of conference, regardless of name, regardless of logo, regardless of history, pretty simple. And I think Vanderbilt is very much approaching this in the correct way. I've seen two different press conferences today where they are trying to create a narrative, and I'm okay with that because that's part of what the season is about. They are trying to create a narrative where data overcomes bias. And I think that's magnificent. When you look at this, it is nothing but not only, well, it's Vanderbilt because, and I'll get to that in just a second, but SEC, not necessarily bias, but SEC exhaustion. There's this term, it's not coming to my head. I'm so flustered. But that people are just, we're not going to get six teams in the SEC or in the playoff in the SEC. It's just not going to
Mhm.
happen.
Mm.
Miami has 4 wins against ranked teams. One of those is still ranked. That's all.
Mm.
Or played 4 games against ranked teams, not 4 wins. Has played 4 games against ranked teams. Only one of those are still ranked today. Vanderbilt had games against 6 ranked teams, half their schedule. 2 of those are still ranked today. But the only time I heard this stat mentioned by national people was about how only 2 of them was still ranked. It wasn't a positive for Vanderbilt. They were presenting it as a negative
Yeah.
And Miami has only played 4 ranked teams, and only one of those is still ranked. Miami's 2 losses were against not only unranked teams at the time, but unranked teams now. Vanderbilt's 2
Mm.
losses are Alabama and Texas on the road. And we're within now. The Texas game was just a ridiculous comeback, but still, regardless of that, they were within striking distance in the fourth quarter of both of those games. And those two, not only are those two teams great conference opponents, but those are 2 ranked teams still right now today. Ridiculous argument, but there are still people arguing, trying to say Texas should get in. Total side note, no. But anyway, I'm not even going to go down that road, but still, they're a ranked team. When you look at 10-2 records across the board and who is still there, I mean, Miami being ranked above, again, remove the Vanderbilt logo. Miami being ranked above a 10-2 SEC team is absolutely ridiculous. I don't care if that's Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, whoever it is. It is absolutely ridiculous. And I'm going to say the same thing about Notre Dame. There is not a reason that this Notre Dame team is anywhere within sniffing distance of a 10-win SEC team when it comes to rankings. And it's just absolutely ridiculous that it's even a conversation. Just mind blowing to me that either of those teams are anywhere near the playoff.
Yeah, Darren, do you? And thank you for that passion. It's coming through the screen. I
I could
feel the
I could
passion.
come through the screen.
So well presented. If John Grisham, his next novel, may make you the lawyer at the center of that novel, arguing for his school to be in the college football playoff.
I can't run like Tom Cruise. I'm not gonna lie. I can't.
Very few people can.
That's right.
So, especially at that age.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly.
Anyway, Darren, so do you think the committee's talking out of both sides of its mouth? On one hand, they're saying we're just analyzing the data, but on the other hand, they're like, oh my goodness, another SEC team. Do we really want another SEC team? Oh, we got Miami over here. Miami, are they a better brand than Vanderbilt? I heard Clark Lee say today, Vanderbilt coach, that there's a bias against Vanderbilt because they've been
Absolutely.
bad for so long. Now they're good, and their past is being held against them. Is that
Yep.
something that you agree with?
Absolutely. And he makes a data driven point. I think one of the things he said in his press conference today that really got my attention is this Vanderbilt team is 10-2 against the spread. Now, we're not really gambling guys. Doesn't mean a whole lot to us. But the rationale behind the point he was making was that is the expected point spread of a game. At best, in most circumstances, a team should be 6-6 against the spread. If it's really being accurately done, you're about 500 against the spread. This Vanderbilt team is 10-2 against the spread. Why is that? Because people all season long just kept expecting same old Vandy was going to show up. Same old Vandy was going to show up. On the opposite side of that, Miami dropped from 12-18 with their last loss, and no matter who their opponent was, and we're talking teams like Virginia Tech that Vanderbilt also beat and beat more soundly than Miami did when they still had a head coach. Uh,
Mm.
every single week from the moment they were dropped to 18, they were given a minimum of 1 bump, and a couple of weeks they were given a bump of 2 spots.
Mm.
That's the difference. Once Vanderbilt dropped, it was an absolute fight to just barely climb back a little bit. And it's because people still, even with what they were doing, felt like the same old Vanderbilt's going to show up. And I think that's very much the bias in the room. Are we really going to put Vanderbilt? I mean, what are they going to do when they go play Oregon? Let's say that's the way it ends up being. What are they going to do? Who's what's that going to look like? That very much is still a part of the conversation. I absolutely believe that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was shocking to see Miami jump over them after a victory against Pitt, which has been incredibly inconsistent
Yep.
this year. I think, and then Vanderbilt goes in and destroys their rival in Knoxville.
Yep.
If you put Pitt and Tennessee in a game, I guarantee you Tennessee wins that game by 25, 30 points.
and would win it 9 times out of 10 easily.
Mm.
Easily.
Yeah. That's probably the nicest thing you've ever said about Tennessee.
You know what? I'm going to go one more. I've got part of the whole, it's Vanderbilt. It shouldn't be happening this way. The Tennessee fans that are losing their mind and calling for Heupel's job, good gracious, you talk about a reality check. I mean, from a Vanderbilt perspective, please run that dude off to Penn State. I promise when you look back over your last 4 coaching hires, you're not going to have a single Vanderbilt fan upset when you get rid of what is easily the best coaching hire that's been made since Phil Fulmer. Okay, run that dude north.
Yeah.
But that's absolutely ridiculous that could even come
Yeah.
close to being a conversation.
Wow, you sound like a Heupel disciple.
If you say it one more time.
Oh, show's over. Let's talk a little bit about the teams that we expect to be in the playoffs, or at least the ones that are currently
set up to be
seeded for the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
We have Georgia, Alabama, we have Texas A&M, Ole Miss, and Oklahoma are the 5 that seem to have solidified their position in the college playoffs. So now we're talking about Vanderbilt, and I think we both believe Vanderbilt should be in there.
Absolutely.
You also have Coach Sarkisian going out on shows advocating that Texas belongs in, and that's something that I heard you say, don't even get me started on that. Why do you think Texas is not worthy?
I will say a 3-loss Texas is more worthy than a 2-loss Notre Dame. I absolutely will stand by that statement. But that being said, with the current structure, the way things are set up, we saw the precedent last year with South Carolina. South Carolina was a hot team playing hot at the right time with 3 losses, just never really got in consideration. I just think that's the reality of what we're dealing with. A 3-loss team is not going to get into the playoff. And I even said it going into this week about Vanderbilt. If they're even going to have a shot, they got to win this Tennessee game. A 3-loss team is just not going to get in. And I think that's just going to hold true comparative to some of the teams that are going to end up in. Yeah, Texas is definitely more deserving, but a 3-loss team is just not going to get in.
Yeah. Yeah, good argument. I'm completely with you on the Vanderbilt situation. It does not make any sense at all if we're just considering the data and we're taking ourselves out of the names of the schools. And yeah, so great point. Let's talk a little bit about the SEC championship game, which is coming up. Alabama and Georgia, 2 familiar opponents to each other. Alabama got the best of Georgia in the regular season. Does it happen again, Darren? How do you see this game going down?
My first reaction is, oh, great, Georgia, Alabama. Yay, we've never seen that before. But at the same time, when you look at these 2 schools and what they bring to the table and what these games look like, even if there's a little bit of fatigue, which was the word I was looking for earlier when I said exhaustion, even if there's a little bit of fatigue because it's the same 2 teams, it's not like they've given us bad games. You know, there have been some very, very exciting Georgia-Alabama games. My concern is, if I'm an Alabama fan, I don't care how good your team is, to face a Kirby Smart team twice and beat them twice. Yeah, that's pretty tough. I don't care. I mean, yes, you know, if we're talking 2019 LSU, might be a different conversation, but that's all. We're also talking generational stuff. I don't think just a good team or even a good bordering on great team is going to line up against a Georgia team, especially this Georgia team, the way we've seen them around the corner, and pull off the victory twice. I just don't. I have concerns that if I'm an Alabama fan, I mean, yes, this Alabama defense is good, and I give them that. They've really done well about not allowing a bunch of yards per game. But part of the reason, part of what has given Alabama success this year is that their offense can find 33, 34 points a game. And I don't know that you're doing that against a Georgia defense, especially the way we've seen this Georgia defense ramp it up and continue and improve their play week in and week out. If I'm an Alabama fan, that is first in my biggest concern about this game.
Yeah. The other day I was talking with an Ohio State fan because it's football,
Right.
and he's a big, I sound redundant, Big Ten promoter. I gave Ohio State props. Of course, they're a great team.
Yeah.
We started talking about the SEC, and I said, watch out for Georgia. Kirby has a chip on his shoulder from last year.
Yep.
It's still in his craw.
Yep.
He's upset about it. Don't sleep on Georgia. They're a real threat, and I think they're going to win the SEC championship game, and I think they're going to be a tough out in the playoffs.
Yeah. I agree completely. And I don't think I said that. I will join you in that. I think this is a Georgia win. Agree completely. And I don't care what your rank is or what your seed is or where the game's going to take place. If you end up being a playoff team, definitely don't want to have to go to Athens and don't want Georgia showing up in my house either. I'm not good with either one of those if I'm a playoff team, for sure.
No doubt about it.
Yep.
Hey, before you leave us today, would you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button? That means a lot to us. That helps us keep the show free, get the word out about what we're doing. We appreciate if you share, tell others about the show. We've got championship games on.
Oh, yeah.
Multiple conferences coming up this weekend. It's going to be another great weekend of football. We'll be back next week to talk about after we see the final bowl projections, how do we think everything is going to go down? And who knows, Darren, there may be more coaching news next week.
At this point, who knows exactly?
Y'all enjoy the games. We'll see you next week. Until then, take care.
Have a great week.